Ghost light, silk alibis. Theaters don't sleep. They keep a candle burning for their own ghosts. After the audience files out, after the last program curls under a seat like a shy creature, and the ushers sweep sugar from the aisles, the Orpheum changes languages. Daytime at the Orpheum is contracts and unions and emails that require 3 cc's to count as breathing. Night is a series of held breaths, the dim blue of the work lights, the click of a relay somewhere high, the hush of velvet as the grand drape remembers its weight. If you've never stood at center stage with the house dark and the ghost light glowing, one bare bulb to appease whatever lingers, you don't know how a building can put a hand in the middle of your back and ask you to tell the truth. I'm Marco, technical director. My kingdom, the fly rail and the shop, a dog-eared prompt book that's been annotated by 4 stage managers and 1 person who wrote only in green pencil, a drawer of gaffer tape that could bandage a small city, and a ring of keys heavy enough to make a priest jealous. I know which traveler complains when humidity rises, which dimmer racks sulk if you condescend to them, and which floorboards tell a different story under dancers than under liars. My office is stage left, painted an immodest black glass window into the wing so I can pretend I'm not hiding. Sienna, my wife then, was the kind of woman the lobby wanted to belong to. She managed corporate galas and product launches, and once an inaugural ball that made the marble look shy. She could instruct a florist and a city council person in the same breath and get both to bring their A games. We met during a strike call on a fashion show, both of us laughing at how much money we were getting paid to move something that didn't want to be moved. I loved the speed of her. She loved the way I made it look like patience was my hobby. We had Wednesdays. She'd slip through the stage door left side, where the light sputters but refuses to die, and buzz my office with a knuckle against the glass. I have bruises on my back from the edge of my desk that could tell the whole story. Sienna's perfume understood shadows. It didn't arrive before she did. She'd lean over my shoulder to look at the cue stack and murmur, "We have 10." And I'd always use 9 and pocket the last minute like a tip for later. If this sounds like bragging, understand. I'm just building the room. Booth gossip is the theater's bloodstream, and I try not to drink too deeply. Still, the first odd thing found me. At 11:18 p.m. on a loadout night, the stage door log said held open 7s. No one should be holding that door open. That's how you host raccoons and robbers. A voice memo in my own phone says, "Remind Carp to oil second traveler." But what I heard instead was the quiet side doors make when someone thinks rules are optional. In the green room, 2 splits of Risset had walked off without a gratuity. A paper cup in the wings wore a lipstick ring the color of summer plums. Sienna wore reds and browns, colors that bit. This was almost purple, almost a dare. I told myself a kinder story. Influencers rent the Orpheum sometimes after hours. Someone's assistant could have been thirsty and theatrical. But the next Thursday, the same sigh crept into the door sensor logs. The same hour wobbled in the camera above the west stair, and a minty shadow lived on the stainless steel sink backstage, as if someone had rinsed their mouth of telling. We were folding towels in our apartment when Sienna offered the word open with the same tone architects use for load bearing. She set it on the table between us like a dish she'd worked hard to make. "With rules," she said. "With care, with us first." She didn't touch me while she said it. She stood with her hip leaned against the counter, not defensive, just braced, like a sailor reading chop. I wanted to be the person who does not shrink. The theater trains you to make room for other people's choices. It also trains you to hide the wires. We wrote it out in clear handwriting. No one from the Orpheum. No friends. No lies by omission. Tell before, not after. Protection always. Our bed remains a country with a border we both guard. The first week after the treaty, Sienna kissed me like a truce. The second, like an apology she hadn't had to say. The third, she sent a text at 11:14. Client dinner ran long, don't wait up, and the stage door sighed for 7 seconds again. I didn't call security. If you turn theaters into courtrooms, the night stops telling you the truth. I did what I know. I set cues only I could see. A whisper of talc under the inside handle of the stage door so a hurried palm would leave a galaxy only a blacklight could read. A kiss of UV marker along the push bar at the green room exit. A filigree of monofilament across the corridor to wardrobe at shin height, not to snare, just to make someone's stride confess. I tightened the closer on my own office door until it forgave patience and punished hurry. These are not traps, they're mirrors. The woman I'd seen once in a rehearsal is named Ivy Voss, choreographer, content creator, owner of a gaze that treats attention as currency. Ivy moves like gravity is a negotiable instrument. Her dancers worship her spine and her comment section. She has a habit of touching railings with her palm like she's blessing them. That's a nice gesture when the railing belongs to you. At 12:08, the UV along the green room door glowed like a thin nebula under my lamp. At 12:11, someone unhooked the monofilament and coiled it like a punctuation mark on the floor, respectful, almost affectionate. At 12:13, the stage door wore a bright palm print, right where you press if you forget you're not supposed to. At 12:15, I found, under the couch in the director's lounge, a clear silicone earbud tipped like a tear that had decided to be solid. I cupped it in my hand and told myself a story where everyone was careful and nobody was cruel. Sienna came to my office with her hair pinned the way only fast hands pin hair. She saw the blacklight in my grip, then her own wrist, where a faint galaxy bloomed, my invisible mark from the green room. She followed my eyes and took a breath from a different part of her ribs. "Don't make me the villain," she said, not pleading, just tired like the night had asked too many questions. "I asked for before," I said. "I thought I did," she answered, and her mouth was honest enough to hurt. Client dinner ran long had been the confession in her mind. In mine, it was choreography. Ivy stepped out from the quick change nook as if darkness were a curtain designed for her entrance. If you've ever changed a set with 60 seconds to spare, you know how little space it takes to recalibrate a life. She nodded to me with a politeness that respected the building and not the man. "We'll go," she said to Sienna, like a stage whisper with no stage. "There is no we," I said before I could stop myself, and the old stage manager in my chest rang the sound cue for too late. We didn't make a scene. That is my one professional pride. The Orpheum is a sanctuary before it's a narrative convenience. I unlocked the orchestra door and let them leave into the alley where cigarette breaks breathe and trucks reverse with beeps. Sienna turned once at the threshold as if to ask the building for an aside. The ghost light did what it always does, stood witness and said nothing. We separated with the competence of people who have negotiated too many contracts to pretend otherwise. She found a loft with the kind of windows that make every hour feel like it earned its light. I kept the chipped mug I liked, and the battered crescent wrench she always called my marriage counselor. We treated each other like colleagues trying not to spoil a grant. Sometimes that's the best we can be. The theater did what good rooms do. It held me by giving me more work than grief. A touring company arrived with a truck labeled fragile but confident. The head electrician had hands too big for the screwdrivers he insisted on using, so I loaned him the right one and called it a victory when he returned it. A violinist in the pit cried quietly over an A that wouldn't stop trembling. I put a space heater under her chair so her fingers would remember the word sure. The ghost light hummed the way fluorescent hums. which is to say like a person considering honesty. Lena, our principal cellist for the run of Nocturne City, played like she was coaxing a ship into harbor. She arrived on load-in day with a case that looked like a sleek animal and a smile she didn't use on people she didn't mean it for. In the pit, she tucked her end pin into its groove like we'd built the slot just for her. Maybe we had. And she tuned with her ear more than with the digital tuner clipped to her bridge. On break, she would sit on the edge of the pit with her legs in the darkness, eating an orange neatly, bit by bit, as if the peel were part of the composition. We started as colleagues. She asked where the pit light dimmers hid. I pointed with a flashlight beam to the dimness itself. "You're not a talker," she said once backstage between cues as I adjusted a shutter and she adjusted her sleeve. "I'm a room," I said. "You can put sound in me and see what happens." The first time Lena kissed me, she did it in the vomitory tunnel, the in-between zone where audience becomes backstage and neither rules apply fully. The house was dark but not asleep. She stepped close like she was about to borrow a pencil, and her hand came up to the notch of my jaw where Sienna's comma used to live. Lena didn't write, she underlined. Her mouth tasted like pith and something sweet that hadn't bragged about being sweet. She kept her eyes open for a beat longer than most, not to check for witnesses, but to witness me. I felt my body make a new promise and hoped the building approved. We made our own rules, the ones that respect a sanctuary instead of turning it into an accomplice. No kisses in the wings where the fly rail could gossip. No linger in the quick change where the mirrors remember too much. Yes to the catwalk at 3, both of us on our stomachs, feet hooked over steel, the city laid out below us like a patient who has decided to live. Yes to the prop loft with the shades drawn and the ghost light asking no questions. Yes to the tuning room after the last applause, her cello in its case, my hands warm from work, the world briefly smaller than a good decision. Sienna and I signed papers in a courthouse that smelled like old varnish and the kind of flowers people bring to themselves. She wore a blazer that told a story about winning. I wore a tie I found behind a road case the day before, still in its plastic. We didn't deliver final speeches. She asked about the Orpheum as if it were a child we'd raised. I told her the traveler stopped squeaking. She smiled like that was a better outcome than most endings. The gala that found us later was called Curtain Up for Care. Donors love chandeliers and canapes shaped like words. Sienna came with Ivy on her arm the way publicists carry dossiers, secure and prepared to pivot. Ivy looked softer without work in the corners of her mouth. When she and I locked eyes across the lobby, we both gave the same small nod. The nod you give someone who once shared a narrow hallway with you and didn't set it on fire. Lena was in black, of course, her hair pinned but refusing the idea of captivity. When she slid into the pit and tuned the room's chest, I felt something let go inside my own. During the speeches, I stood in the wings and watched the donors applaud themselves, which is not cruelty, it's how giving rehearses belief. The ghost light waited in the corner patient. There is an odor to successful nights. Metal cooling, perfume surrendering, dust settling like a blanket after a long day. After breakdown, I took my last round. Stage door, quiet. Green room, tidy, the mint ghost moved on. My office door, that old co-conspirator, closed with the perfect hush. On my desk sat 2 clear silicone earbud tips, side by side, quotation marks closing a chapter. I'd found the second under the couch in the director's lounge weeks ago, and kept them both the way you keep a lesson you paid dearly for. Lena found me there, lamp off, ghost light casting a script of shadows. She came behind my chair and set her palms on my shoulders, thumbs ghosting the tendons as if convincing my body to join the verdict my mind had reached. She kissed the hinge of my jaw, then the place below my ear where different languages form. "You look like a decision," she said. "I'm learning my lines," I said, standing to face her. We didn't hurry. We are old enough to know speed is only impressive to the frightened. Her back found the cool of the office door. My palms found the silk hidden under her blazer. We moved with the quiet courtesy people use when their joy doesn't require permission. Her breath warmed the skin over my sternum through cloth, and I thought, absurdly and beautifully, of the way she bows open a phrase until it thinks it invented itself. When she laughed softly into my mouth, we'd bumped the desk, traitor furniture. It was the sound I'll carry to whatever the afterlife decides to be. No revenge. It's not that I don't understand the genre, it's that the theater's bones don't deserve to carry it. The Orpheum is my church and my workshop, and I refuse to dirty its floors with courtroom spill. That night, I put the earbud tips back into the drawer with the UV lamp and the monofilament and a coil of purple gaff that's seen too much. I closed the drawer. I turned off my lamp. I left the ghost light on. If you come to the Orpheum on a night when the house is dark and the lobby smells faintly of dust and new money, you might hear a cellist somewhere below your feet teasing a scale into a story. You might see, from the balcony, a man in black move across the stage and pause at center like he's listening to the floor. You might not notice the way he skims his fingers over the velvet, a benediction, a promise made not to a person but to a place. You might pass the stage door where a sign says no admittance, and you might think for a heartbeat that rules are only for other people. You'd be wrong. They are for what we love. When I lock up, I stand for a moment under the glow of the ghost light. The bulb hums like a throat singing a note nobody else can hear. I imagine all the palms that have touched this building, careless, careful, hungry, kind. And I decide again to be the sort that leaves clean prints. Outside, the alley smells like rain whether or not it's falling. Ivy's laugh rises once like a line from a show we didn't audition for. Sienna's shadow passes across the memory of a window. Lena's hand finds mine, warm and unashamed. We have 10 minutes before the alarm arms itself. We will use 9 and fold the last one under our tongues for later, not because we are afraid of running out, but because some minutes are better as proof than as scenes.